Okay. Today is what? March 2nd. It's Monday, March 2nd. Because February was a 28-day month, therefore today's the first Monday in March, just like the second was the first Monday in February. Anyway, that's not particularly interesting. We don't have an agenda per se, although Rich Jellin wanted to know how to use 32K on a ZX81 slash Timex Sinclair 1000, and I went and dug up the Memotech manual, which talks about the pokes that you need to make if you're going to use there's a standalone or with a 16K module. And Adam wanted to know about the wild, wonderful world of AI and how you can use it to cheat at programming your computer.
Yeah, yeah. It looks interesting what you guys are doing with the TS Pico side of it.
I'll be the
Oh.
judge of that.
Uh-oh, okay.
So, anybody else have any other topics that they want to talk about? I mean, I can dive into some AI nonsense.
Well,
Um,
before we really get started, I want to know what the hell the background is to Paul's background. What is that supposed to be?
Hang on, let me spotlight
Uh,
you, Paul.
it's like white things, bowling
Shmoo,
pins?
Shmoo, Shmoo, if I recall correctly. There might be a C in there.
That
It's
does
a,
not help me.
it's a cartoon character or something
Oh,
from the 70s, the 80s. Does anybody remember
60s and 70s, I believe.
the
okay.
Yeah.
70s?
Herculoids,
Well,
if
I
you want
do
to look it
remember the
up.
Herculoids as a kid, yeah. I don't remember
Yeah.
that guy though.
Oh, I have no recollection about that, but
Hmm.
yeah, I remember this, oddball looking thing in something. I don't know what it was.
I
That
think it was in the Little Abner cartoons.
was it like a TV cartoon too though?
No, comic page.
Yeah, I know Little Abner was, but I mean was Shmoo in a comic? We have the power of the internet at our fingertips. Why are we even talking about this? Why are we even asking stupid questions when we
Yes,
can
Adam.
just
Why are you doing that?
fictional character, Shmoo. Okay, yeah, so it says it was handicap. Yes, it was in cartoons. This looks like oh shoot. I'm trying to think of the word. Let me just share my
Oh, I
screen.
wish I hadn't have asked now. This is the Timex meeting after all. I thought, oh no.
There's a wiki page for it if you want to
Is
look it up.
Yeah, here I'm just gonna show this real quick. Just so you can see the graph. So there's the original what a Shmoo looks like. The Flintstones. That's where.
Oh, he was in the Flintstones.
Yeah, there's
Huh.
I'm not gonna go to Facebook.
It's okay.
Anyway,
The
point
original
being,
was Al Cap.
what's that?
The original was Al Cap. It
Well,
was the
that's what it says right
cartoon.
here, Al Cap. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Except that I did not enjoy reading Al Cap. So, and I do remember the Flintstones. So that would be where's the stop share button? There it is. All over the
Well, if
screen.
it's too
We
distracting,
could
I
just
can
watch an
change
entire
it.
episode before we begin the meeting. I mean, I guess the meeting's begun, but too bad for everyone else.
We could do those things. Um, Actually, Ingo's here. Ingo, can I get you to talk about your keyboard? Give folks an update on your keyboard because I feel like it's been a while and you made that video
Yeah,
after the last time. Is that correct?
that is correct. And I was really planning on attending the last meeting, but I got tied up on a job and couldn't make it.
That's
So
okay.
so glad to see everybody's bright and shiny faces tonight. Um yeah, so there is a new video. It was just an update video showing the progress on the super awesome new UV printed keycaps from 3D Keycap. So if any of you know my YouTube channel, you can go check it out. I can show it here as well. I made a new circuit board, and we have the new keycaps. And I've been talking to 3D Keycap about actually doing a Kickstarter. And the whole idea about the Kickstarter is to make sets of keycaps for everybody cheaper, right? Because if he does them in bulk, we dropped the per set price for everybody. So because if everyone just goes and orders one and he has to do, set up a TV printer, print one set, ship one set. The idea is to get, I don't know, 50 sets maybe, do them all in one run and then ship them out to everybody. So tentatively right now, his first email to me about the Kickstarter, kind of looking at a target of $50 Canadian per set, and set a Kickstarter goal of $1,000. And then so that's like 20 or more sets. I think there's probably enough of us that are interested in a keycap set that's doable. And, obviously if there's more of a response, then I don't know how much that'll drop the price or what. I don't know how the whole thing will work. But the other thing about the Kickstarter is that if there isn't enough interest, then everyone gets their money back because Kickstarter handles all that stuff. So we're thinking about getting the Kickstarter prepared this month and then launching it in April. So, and then setting a duration for the Kickstarter of 30 days. So that means that he could give updates in May and do production and start sending stuff out to people.
Okay, interesting. Having
That's one
been,
possible scenario, right?
yep. Um,
I'm still kind of waiting to see. I want to get the word out more because I think there's lots of other applications for these keycaps, not just for the Kilo Z. And then there's a lot of people that already have mechanical keyboards that just want different keycaps on. So
have you joined Facebook yet?
yes, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in several Sinclair related groups. There's quite
Okay.
a few actually,
Okay.
and I haven't posted on all those groups yet. Again, I got really busy after the last video, and I still need to do, I think, a little bit more advertising and PR marketing, kind of let people know, hey, this is available now, right? Really hasn't been a lot of traffic on the video so far. I think it's been almost 2 weeks. It's got 300 something views.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
Well, why don't you put the link in the
Yeah. Drop the link
Yeah,
into the
in the
chat,
chat.
and
Yeah, yeah,
um,
we'll do.
there's
Uh,
I've backed a number of Kickstarters, and I've seen postmortems from
mhm.
Kickstarters. Um, and you probably can find some good resources on how to do a Kickstarter. I know that one of the concerns that came about a number of years ago, um, and was an issue for the Spectrum Next team at one point, was that you had to have photos of an actual finished object to post. You couldn't post 3D renderings,
Right.
because and certainly you have that.
Yes.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
others.
In fact, Loic has asked me to prepare descriptions, text, and photos, video, whatever, so we can put that all on the Kickstarter.
Okay. Okay. And
Uh,
the other thing that you may want to think about is that promotion needs to start about 60 days before your Kickstarter, and be pretty much constant for that 90-day period.
Well,
Um,
where do you point them to if there's no Kickstarter then
you can
in the
you can
promotion?
start the Kickstarter page, and people can click this button that says notify me when this launches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which, I go there, and I get emails about other stuff, and I'm like, oh yes, I need to spend my money on this and this and this and this.
so, David, if I understood you correctly, you're saying set up the Kickstarter page before the Kickstarter starts, and then
Well, you're gonna have to
send
have
people there.
all of your Kickstarter ducks in a row to even set up the
Right.
page. Because my assumption, I mean, I know the part about having all your stuff squared away is one of those requirements. But then my assumption about, the launch thing is that it's just sort of automatic and, it activates your page when you tell it to, or, if it's on a schedule or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But the based on the many Kickstarters I have seen and those that have succeeded and those that have failed, the ones that have failed have, various issues, but one of the issues is just uh, people not doing enough promotion. And
Mhm.
having said that, it's impossible to do enough promotion.
Mhm.
It's just really difficult to, uh, you know, find all the places. I mean, you can find as many of the places as you can, but it's nearly, it's like any other consumer product. It's nearly impossible to saturate, the consumer's mind with your product.
Right.
Um, and so, like, so for as an example, someone posted in one of the Facebook CX81 groups that they were looking for a circuit board for a keyboard and some kind of printed enclosure. And I'm like, yeah, that's Ingo's thing. And I posted the video, and the person's response to me was, well, that's really nice, but how do I get one? I'm like, reach out to Ingo. His name's on the
Mhm.
fucking his name's on the video. I don't know, figure it out. Um, right, exactly. Peyton is 100% correct. Is, Hackaday, any kind of place where, us nerds
Mhm.
gather who might own one of these, you know, ancient computers and wants to have a nicer keyboard, nicer case, etc. Um, literally, you can do it all day and just not have done enough.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest warning that I'm putting out there for you is
No, I appreciate
if you
that.
think you have a full-time job now, just wait.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, I figured as much, right? I mean, there's no way you gotta make sure that the people that would want something like that see that it's out there, right?
yep.
So they can buy it.
Hmm.
And that's what I definitely have quite a bit more of that to do. Luckily, the team at 3D Keycap is also interested in
Hmm.
helping to. I mean, they're going to set up the whole Kickstarter and do all that, right? And they're also interested in somebody approached them about Commodore keycaps.
Hmm.
And so I don't think that they ever really considered the retro computing community as a market until just recently. And I think they're seeing the potential, that there's quite a bit of us folks out there that still like to play with the older computers and are doing a lot of tinkering and making our own keyboard circuit boards and throwing on key switches and
Wait, Ingo,
doing
you're saying
different
there's people
stuff.
still using Commodores?
It is a little hard to believe, isn't it?
It's shocking, isn't it, Adam? But yeah.
I mean, of all things, why would anybody want to use a Commodore?
Or an Atari. Geez, I
Yes,
mean, come
right.
on.
Well, no, an Atari is a natural, it's an obvious second choice computer to the 2068.
Yeah, so it's all very exciting, obviously. And yeah, so I don't know how good let me see if I turn off my background.
Yep.
I can show you guys the keyboard. Okay. And maybe turn up the light a little bit. I don't want to turn up too much.
Maybe you can highlight him again.
Oh yeah, thanks.
So let's see the camera to focus on that.
I think
It's
that's
pretty
about
good.
as focused as it's going to get. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, just
Yeah,
hold
it's
on.
focused.
Hold it still. It's kind of hard for it to focus on very small. Um,
Yeah, maybe if I make my hands bigger.
You could try bringing it closer a little bit and see if it.
bring it down a little bit vertically. There you go. Just to center it. That's about as sharp as it's going to get.
Bummer.
I think it
I
looks
do
pretty
have
good, honestly.
actually
Yeah.
I have a photo that I can just share the photo. That'll probably show up better. Let's do this. And I think that's probably a better idea. And so many work photos, all these generators I've been working on lately. Got to scroll quite a bit here. Um, Almost there. Okay, here we go.
Stay on
Pull this
target.
up, and then go here, and then go share. There we go. That should be better.
That's amazing. Yes. Super sharp.
So, so those, UV printed ink, no more water transfer decals.
That's really good looking. What
And
is that a filament printed outer?
so the bezel around the keycaps and covering the circuit board, uh, my brother printed on his Sheety 4 Plus printer using a glass fiber ABS.
Okay.
No post-processing, just straight print.
Looks
Turned out
good.
really clean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very happy with that. And then the new PCB is black, which I guess doesn't really matter because you can't see it anymore, but you know it's under there,
Hmm.
which matches Carl's amazing new motherboard. And I moved the header location for the ribbon cable to the more of the middle of the keyboard
Mm.
so that it doesn't interfere with the lip in the case that the keyboard actually rests in and screws into. So yeah, it's turning out really nice.
That looks really good. That looks really
Yeah.
good.
And the best part is that now we can, produce these keycaps in large batches and with good repeatability. And I'm still thinking I'm going to release my SVG files for the few people that really want to torture themselves and do
Mm.
the water transfer decals. But I mean, why when you can have this?
Yeah, right. I mean,
I'm not going to do it anymore. I think I've done 3 sets with water transfer decals. I'm done. I was done after the first one.
yeah,
You
I
can use the
imagine.
same template for the 2068
Yeah,
with the
I
key.
mean,
Yeah.
just minor
Mhm.
changes, right? I mean, the keycaps are slightly different. So yeah, making a new SVG file uh would be really no big deal,
Hmm.
Gustavo.
Yes, yes, of course. Only need
Yeah,
change the functions and the key, but
right.
you have the space to put all the information on the 2068. Great,
Right.
good job.
In Inkscape, I just created one keycap and then basically just duplicated it and then went in and edited each part. But it's all structured, right? So that the location of the graphic, if there is a graphic, and the location of the function and the location of the basic command and the shift character, those remain unchanged. And then just by duplicating it and grouping them into the 4 rows, right, created one file that has everything.
Mhm.
So makes Inkscape's
No,
a really nice tool for that.
the good point is you replicate the plastic key inside your key because you have a rectangle, a
Mhm,
black rectangle, and similar to the Timex 2068 key.
mhm, exactly.
Wow, yes,
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good job.
Gustavo.
Very, very nice. Very nice, Ingo.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
kill your share.
Yep.
At the
Cool.
moment, it's one of the best keyboard I see in during these 44 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then coupled with your, your 3D printed enclosure, that'll be really nice.
Yeah.
So, what are you thinking about what would the person backing the Kickstarter get? Is it
So
just the keycaps? Is it the keycaps and
yeah,
the circuit?
right now, we're just thinking about the keycaps. I also want to do something where, again, if somebody was to, we're gonna open source everything. Um, but if you go to JLC PCB for the keyboard circuit board, you're paying for five and you're paying for shipping.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking that it might be nice to have like a keyboard, either a keyboard kit or just a finished keyboard, right? So keyboard switches, keycaps, bezel all in one, drop into the case. That way, if you want to print your own Killzone case, you can. If you want to have my brother print you a really high quality one that looks really nice, you can do that. If you want to send it to another 3D print farm and have them print it for you, fine, you could do that too.
Um, the question is the format of the output of the keyboard. You have 6 bits for a row. So what is the output format?
It's the same as the default ZX81 keyboard. So it's a 5x8.
5 bits per
So
a
you
row,
It's the
right?
same matrix, Gustavo. You just plug it directly into the keyboard connectors on the ZX81 board or the
Ah,
1000.
right? Yeah.
oh, okay. No, because I thinking for the emulator or for the PC, you can
Mhm.
also interface this keyboard with the microprocessor and then send to the USB the
Yeah.
keyboard for the PC
I
and also,
was
yeah.
I was hoping to work together with either Stuart or with Tim because both of them have made USB keyboards for use with emulators. Um, get them to use these keycaps and together with just either just a dedicated keyboard, right, for people that just want to do the emulator thing, or somebody wanted to drop it into a Kilo Z case and then just run a USB out of that, just so that they have the look of the computer, but with a more proper keyboard for their emulator antics, then they can do that too, right?
Hmm.
Because I think in those cases, their keyboards just have like a Raspberry Pi Pico or something underneath, or an Arduino Nano, I think is what Stewart's has,
Mhm.
that runs a USB out, and the PC just sees it as a regular USB keyboard, but it's mapped in such a way that it'll work with the emulator. So yeah, that's another potential use for these keycaps.
Okay.
Sure.
But yeah,
No, you think
okay.
you could think to create an expanded keyboard with the numeric keypad and
Mhm,
escape control and the
mhm,
additional function. Maybe it's not mapped at the normal matrix, but you can use an extended functionality
mhm. Yeah,
like a
and then
terminal
the
or whatever.
last
Yeah.
in some previous meetings, we've all been talking about doing the same thing for the 2068. You know, Peyton's been working on a model of the case, and if we adapt the top cover to take a regular mechanical key switch matrix board that's mounted up in there with mechanical key switches, then have custom 2068 keycaps. There's a lot of neat stuff you can do with that.
Hmm. No, that is really really great. It's better that the Timex Terminal 3000 product because the Timex Terminal 3000 does not have in the key the function of the basic.
Mhm.
That
Hmm.
it is better because you have print the functions. It's
Mhm.
better than the original.
Mhm.
And really,
Good
this
point. And then, regarding Kickstarter, my brother and I have been talking about the possibility of actually offering a full Kilo Z kit, right? So I don't know how many people there would be that would want to build one, just like they built the ZX81 kit back in the day. That has the case, has Carl's new motherboard, has the keyboard,
Hmm.
everything ready to go. I know it's difficult to put together a kit and include it with instructions. And, Stuart has told us from his own experience how complicated that is. And then, somebody builds it and then they have a problem and it doesn't work. Now you're doing customer service stuff and, having them ship it back. But I mean, there's that. There's the thought of making some YouTube videos on, I know there's a bazillion of them out there on how to change the 7805 and how to change it to composite, and do the internal RAM upgrade and all that, and add a WESP, for those that just want to take a soldering iron to their original main board. That's where Carl's option comes in really nice. So yeah,
This
I mean, go ahead.
this picture, if you see, this is have an extra bit, is 6 bits, not 5, and put inside this bit row the different escape tab, caps lock, control shift. It's very easy to implement in a keyboard, but that is the best way you can expand or create a regular keyboard or the extended keyboard, a full terminal keyboard. Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm.
That is not more available for the user, but it's a case of the 2068 with the keyboard put there.
A similar, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
similar case, yep. But this is
They,
a terminal, not
Cool.
a PC. Or a 2068 rather.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this happens if you add an extra bit, not 5, use 6 bits and put the rest of the keys. Okay, very simple.
Mhm. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. So there's your next goal, Ingo. Once you have successfully done the Kickstarter and all the labor and etc. After that, if you still feel like living, you can, go on to this next minor task.
Well,
Um,
Yes.
my brother keeps asking me, "What's our next project?" So he's already chomping at the bit for the next thing to do after Kilo Zed's done. So
Michael, you have to finish this one first. You can't just jump ahead.
that's
No,
what I keep telling him.
don't be like me. Don't just jump from one project to another without finishing one of them. Um, when we launched the TS Pico, I for about 5 minutes considered kits, and there were 3 people who wanted kits. It is a tremendous, whopping pain in the butt to assemble the parts and figure out what do I do with these, these 3 random resistors? Do I tape them on, so you create a little, you know, outline guide on a piece of paper and tape them down to that. And because you can't assume that anybody has any equipment, Carl was one of the folks. And so I felt safe with Carl, but, I just didn't, like you said, I'm not Heathkit. I don't have, the resources where you just, you screwed it up, send it in and, I'll rework it. No, send it in. I'll just send you one that works. There will be no more kidding going on.
Wait, is that what Heathkit did? If you messed up your kit, they would rework it for you?
Um, um,
I think that was a fee. I don't
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
Yeah,
was
that's
you
what
had to
I
like,
kind
pay.
of remember
Yeah.
part
too.
of
Yep.
the thing. But yeah, Heathkit, I mean, because they also sold things pre-built as well
Sure.
as in kit form for a lot of their stuff. Um, I think that was later on in the years too. I think the earlier stuff was just kits, but they did offer a service for a while that they would fix your mistakes.
Wow, that
That's a good
seems
way
like
to
a lot
put
of
it.
trouble.
Yeah, they would
Hmm.
fix.
I'll point out they're no longer
We
around.
have some.
Sure, I was thinking that myself.
Yeah, I actually used to work for them, and we had funny horror stories from back in the day when people would send in boards. And one of the ones that sticks in my mind is somebody had used a gray plastic glue to glue all the components in instead of solder. It was called liquid solder or something like that. And the technician went to go repair something. He was going to desolder a component, and he touched the soldering iron to it, and it just started smoking.
Well,
So
Oh,
they didn't even
no.
bother repairing the board or trying to take all that plastic off of there. They just sent him a pre-manufactured board for the fee, for the repair fee.
why would they do that? Because I know you used to get the solder with the kits.
Uh,
You had to supply the soldering iron. That's it. 'Cause
there was something about them.
We built a lot of these kits.
There was something
Even
about
in
them.
Oregon.
Yeah, knowing that high temperatures can damage sensitive electronics, so they use this liquid that was supposed to conduct electricity, but of course it didn't work like solder at all. No, it was kind of
Oh,
funny.
God. Too funny.
Yeah. Again, you never know what
You'll always get surprised. I can imagine there's many horror stories there. Just like, when people started putting together their own PC cases and someone describes how to do it to them, and like, what was it? Like, attach the motherboard to the case, and that they just done it where it was
No
right
standoffs.
right on the metal with the standoffs holding it down, that kind of thing. You
that's what
have to
they're for,
be.
right?
I'll point you to the what is it? The video of one of the universities, the there's Intro Computer Science CS50 class, where they have the prior students go on stage, and the new students submit to them their algorithm for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then the prior students have all the pieces, and then they follow the algorithm precisely, and it's hilarious, as you
In
might
high school, I
expect.
actually did that in a communication skills class,
Yeah.
and it does not work out very well.
Oh, it's
But funny you should mention that. Probably the statute of limitations has expired on this. When my friends and I were young teens, we would hang out at the terminal rooms, which are these rooms full of computer terminals connected to the university's mainframe. And this is the early 80s, and a comp sci class was required for everyone, it seemed like. And so you got a lot of people through that comp sci class who were not majors, and they would take copious notes. The professor would be writing stuff down on the blackboard, and at some point, the professor would write down on the blackboard how it was that you logged into the mainframe, with the obvious assignment being now go to a terminal room and log in. And near the beginning of each semester, we'd go hang out and just, watch. And you could see somebody struggling. And so we would go over and offer to help them log in. So we, like, okay, so what's your username? And we'd show them how to type that in and say, what's your password? And we'd show them how to type that in, and then we'd scurry away and write both things down and have an account for the semester at least. Because, this guy'd write down on the screen, the user, he'd write down the prompt on the blackboard, username, and then your username here, and they would type your username here. This is the early 80s, when people just were less sophisticated about computers, as it were, right? Of course, now with iPhones everywhere, everybody knows how to log into a mainframe, and I can no longer get, usernames and passwords for that. Yeah, yeah. People can't follow directions, as Ryan was saying. You can give them all the best directions you want, and they will just
Well, I guess I
Oh,
should add
you
with that communication skills class, we had to follow our own directions.
Oh boy.
So I had to make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich that I described how to make, and I had to butter both sides. So like our instructor like was very, I was like, oh, do I really have to? They're like, is that what you wrote? I'm like, well, I didn't specify that you do both sides. Well, you didn't say you shouldn't, things like that. So
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
David, you didn't figure do things like you'd figure out how to tell from various informations which remote room that somebody was logged in from, and so while they were still logged in, you could, if you happen to be headed there, you could just drop in on them and know exactly where they were.
Um, I knew there were guys, there were other, I mean, they're college students that who were like, whatever, the smarter kids in the Pascal classes who knew that stuff. And then there were, a couple high school kids who had also read, deep into the user manual or not into the programming manuals who knew that stuff. I was there to play adventure and learn how to program in BASIC and chat with people, through their equivalent of a ICQ or text chat system now, and send emails. So I was there to completely waste time. Anyway, cool. Ingo, thank you very much. Um, you know what? I'm going to share this thing for the Pascal lovers among us, which is David Sully and I'm not sure who else. Oh, all right, cool. So, um, there is High Soft released a Pascal for the Spectrum, and it was ported over to the 2068 as well. Uh, and it's it's programming in Pascal within the Spectrum environment. This guy, I've been following him a little bit. You have to have a Windows computer, but is a Pascal cross compiler that targets both 6502 computers and Z80s. Um, and the ZD stuff came recently, and he just posted somewhere to Facebook or something like that about how he had a program that he'd written in Pascal and was running on the Spectrum. So if you want, some more Pascal in your life, uh, this is available. You can support it by, giving this guy a couple bucks. Um, Here, let's go back to the general updates. More Z80 fragments. Okay. Oh, yeah, right. So this is an example of a game in written in Spectrum environment so that you can see how it's done. Um, and this is not, I mean, he's been doing this for not very long, considering that he released the first iteration only 30 days ago. So oh, I did put the link in chat. I put it in there for David. So David, this targets the ZX Spectrum Next. So you can write Pascal programs and compile them and then run them on your Next.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I think I've got it. Is it called Pasta 80 or something like that?
I don't know what's that.
Okay, because there is um uh, there is a compiler called Pasta 80 which supposedly compiles to Z80 based computers, including the ZX Spectrum and its Spectrum Next. But I have not been able to install it. Maybe I'm an absolute fumble fingers when it comes to installing it, but they've got a horribly complicated way that you have to install it, and I can't tell I can't tell one end from the other. I'm totally lost.
Okay, let me just share this so the other folks can see what you're talking about. There we go. So this is a, oops, um, cross compiler targeting Z80 machines. So CPM and three versions of the spectrum. Let's see. And I see it has no packages. Let's look at what it has under releases. What do you have for hardware, David?
I have a PC running on Windows 11.
Okay, so you probably want to get this Windows AMD 64 distribution. It says it's a binary that you can just install directly on your computer. Do you know if that's what you did?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so let me show you the
Uh,
path to that. I started here on the home page, and the way most GitHub things work is that there's a thing over here called releases in the right-hand sidebar.
okay.
And within a release, there will be assets. And if there are downloadable things for you to use, they'll be in here. The ZXNext is distributed the same way. There's a GitHub page, there's releases, and you can grab the most current release of ZXNext out of there. So this is a this is a Pascal that is like Turbo Pascal 3. Almost an exact clone. Oh boy, okay. With all of the things that that means. Yeah, okay. Compiler itself is written in Pascal. Fascinating. Okay. So, David, once you have it downloaded and installed on your computer, you should be able to type your Pascal program into a text file and save it as something .pas,
Mm-hmm.
and then type pasta that thing, and it will compile it to, a .com file because the default target is CPM. So if you want it to compile for something else, you have to read the instructions here, which would be probably dash dash ZX48, which then compiles it for a standard spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or the ZXNext.
Or the ZXNext, right? You just specify which platform you want it to be compiled for, and it will do the magic for you. Um, the default is a binary that contains exactly the bytes of the thing plus the header, which sounds like a tap file. Yep. Oh, okay. So you can specify whether you want it to be a snapshot format or a tap format. Okay.
Okay.
And here's some pictures of it actually working, running in Fuse. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I have
Yeah.
not enough love of Pascal to want to learn this, but Ryan, you can. You can use it.
Well, I do have some Turbo Pascal 3 programs
There you go.
at hand. So maybe what I'll do is I'll try compiling a few and see how they turn out, and I'll let you know.
Cool. Awesome.
How
Oh,
exciting, eh? Wow. Don't
for
ask
some
me,
folks, yeah.
don't ask me to jump up and down. I'm just too tired.
Be interesting if it has support for like what was it, their was it their CRT library for the video?
CRT library.
Something I think that's what it was. That you could
No,
if they've done that, then that you could use that to abstract
you
some of the
mean a
screen.
TPU library? Turbo Pascal unit?
Well, no, they had one that for drawing to the screen.
Oh, a Turbo Pascal library. Okay.
You could also, just make some DOS calls, of course, which um, was one way back in the day. I'll have to look because if I had that source, I made one where I used, yeah, I think I used their library for screenwriting, which was like a direct screenwrite thing. But then I made one that had the same interface, but wrote ANSI characters, so you could use it over. You could use it to make a PBS door program.
I'm looking. So let's see. Querying the keyboard via key pressed and read key. Color has specific keywords with constants for the 8 spectrum next colors. Um, yeah, it looks like there's he's extended it to do things specific to the spectrum. Interesting.
Okay.
Well, cool. Now we know there's 2 Pascals at minimum for
You
the.
can change the ROM call for the Timex calls and then compile for 2068.
Probably because where's the source? Those are tests. What is RTL? Yeah, there's assembly source is there, and
In
it's got
where?
in the RTL folder.
Okay.
And then what is this? I'm not sure what miscellaneous is. I don't know. There's some images, but there's some examples. But it says it's written in Pascal and that you can compile it with Free Pascal, which is similar to Turbo Pascal 3.
Oh, is
Oh, there it is right there.
cxrom.asm. Yeah.
The source is how many lines does it say? Almost 6,800 lines of code. Wow. That's not too bad for a Pascal compiler.
If you see the cxrom.asm, there you have the restart 16, for example, to character output, calling the open of the screen at the beginning of the initialization, open the channel number 2. You have 1601, you need to modify by 1230 at the Timex 2068.
Sure.
Very simple. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and
not
there's
too
a Pascal
complicated.
file, cxrom.pas, that contains the procedures. Clear screen,
Oh.
go to XY, text color, text background, the key press, the read key, a delay, border, sound. Nice. Beep. It's
Oh,
got
so
Very
beep.
simple.
you could mod that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can, I mean, because it's written in Pascal, it's not going to be terribly difficult to do. Wow,
You need to
that's really
modify only the open channel because the rest, the restart 16 is compatible and the key location too, and you don't have problem with the keyboard reading also.
Yep.
Very
Yep.
simple, just a single call.
Really nice. Really nice. Very clean. Well documented. What a surprise. How unusual for an open source project.
Yeah.
Well, that's because nowadays you just have ChatGPT write your documentation.
I will confess to that. Yes.
Speaking of
We're,
AI,
we're all
David,
guilty. We're all guilty.
So yeah, so Adam has been following a discussion on the TS Pico list, but actually goes back
Speak
for
for yourself.
um some of you may remember that I posted a program called Skirmish to the 2068 group list, and it is a conversion of a QuickBASIC, Microsoft QuickBASIC program to the 2068. And I had I stumbled across this program a couple years ago, and I looked at the code, and I was like, "Oh, this is, relatively simple, from the perspective of QuickBasic and whatnot." Um, and I thought, "Oh, this would be, it's short. It's got some potential as a conversion to the 2068." But what really caught my eye is that it's a two-player game, and you get to specify the names of the two players. And I thought, oh, this will be the perfect thing where I can battle Adam in digital capacity.
Which I did play it, and I posted some pictures of that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And as a quick basic thing, it is designed entirely for a text interface, and so there's plenty of opportunities to improve that. Like I want to design some user-defined graphics, and in addition to the text, like zhuzh it up with a little animation or something like that of combat. And I'll have to
There
work
can be
through
only
the
one from what is that movie? Chop. There can be, and then they
Highlander.
chop off his head.
Highlander.
It's a Highlander. Thank you.
Highlander. Okay,
Yeah,
right.
Highlander.
because like one of the things that happens in the game is you find you can find a sword in the grass. It just happens
Yep,
to be there, and you
right.
can pick it up and start fighting with it. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there's like three options in the game. One is to look around for other weapons. Two
right.
is to fight the other person, and I don't know what the other one is. Yeah, I mean, it's remarkably simple, and I thought, oh, this will make for an absurd, but moderately charming game. Um, so um, I tried, I started a manual conversion of it, and a couple of the issues that I ran into are that the arrays in QuickBasic are uh, an individual array item is only as long as the content in that item. And this program uses arrays in a bunch of places. One of the places it uses arrays is to store the player names. And the way that Spectrum Basic works is you define an array, especially a string array, and every instance, every row in that array is going to be however long, you
It's because it's a character array, not a string array. Is
yeah,
basically
character
what
array.
it is.
Sorry. Yes, right. And so if you define an array like a string as 2 comma 10, you're going to get uh, two array items, but they are always going to be 10 characters long. So if, put my name in there, it's going to be David followed by 5 spaces and Adam followed by 6 spaces. And if you want to, as this program does, use those arrays to drop people's names into the middle of a sentence, obviously that doesn't work because of the extra spaces. Um, so I sort of set it aside. Don't be like me. Finish a project.
Curiously, how many rows or strings did that program allocate? Like 10 or
There's a bunch of
arbitrary number?
there's a couple of array, character arrays, and then there's a bunch of just sort of random strings that are used for stuff.
I mean, like did it create a string array of like 10 strings or?
For the people names, it's 2. I think for the weapons, it was like 10 or something. I don't remember exactly how many weapons are options are, but it would read each of those in. So,
Okay.
150 bytes for the weapons array or something like that.
Well, as long as it didn't use too many other strings, I could think of a way you could do it to have a fake string array.
Well, so what I ended up doing a few weeks back was there was an upgrade to Claude. I think it's to 4.6 or something like that. And so I thought, oh, this will be, the 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 the
Well, why
hype
don't
is
you,
that
before you
it's
even say that, say
yep,
what
go
Claude
ahead.
is to us, because you
Okay,
haven't
so
even, yeah.
Claude is the popular name for an AI service available from a company called Anthropic. And Claude is one of the models that is available. There's a couple others. I think Haiku has been discontinued, but There's like 5 or 6 different models, and each one has its own thing. Like there's a upper limit on how many the way these things are measured is tokens, how many tokens you can send to the AI, how many tokens it can respond with, and the more tokens, the sort of the deeper it can think, the more information you can send in one package to the AI. So Claude's 4.6 upgrade, I don't remember what the hype was, but there was a bunch of different things. So okay, this will be a good opportunity to try this again. But as with anything AI, especially sort of obscure stuff like, relatively speaking, Sinclair BASIC is kind of obscure. Um, and the vagaries of Sinclair BASIC are even more so because there's not a gazillion web pages that have, all of the documentation. Um, so I ended up prompting Claude saying I wanted to convert this from QuickBASIC to Sinclair BASIC, but then I also told it about the things that I knew existed as problems, these arrays with the multiple characters no matter what, and I don't remember what the other issues were. And so it worked out to use regular strings for the user for the player's names, uh, but in the place where it would print out the player's name, it uses a third variable and assigns the current player to that third variable before it needs to print that thing out. So it figured out some ways around these challenges in converting from arrays to regular strings, and for the most part, with a couple spacing issues, it worked out really well. Like it, like
So
I,
can you point the like Claude to like the manual for the 2068 or something like that, or how does that
and
work?
so there's the problem is that the
No.
manual for the 2068 is not. There's like one website where somebody has taken it and converted it to text, but the manual for CX Spectrum Basic is good in certain ways in that it teaches you how to program, but it doesn't document completely. Like
Hmm.
you remember looking at the IBM uh, basic manual that came with the PC. There was chapters on how to do programming, but then there was this whole section. It was just a reference on the
Yeah,
command and
there's no
told.
reference, and you have to read the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly, Ryan. There's no reference. There's no, this is the print command and all its permutations and its limitations. And this is, how, uh, string arrays are handled in Spectrum Basic with permutations and
Yeah,
limitations,
so
etc.
once you sort of learn things and then you forgot like one little bit, good luck finding that again,
Hmm.
because the way it was written.
Yeah, yeah. So, advances and like you said, Adam, that online manual, but then me telling it because the online manual, there's a word for these string arrays that, are defined that way, and the word is Procrustean,
It's what?
which
Did
exactly.
you? It's in the manual,
It's
and
in
You
the
can't just make up
manual.
words in this meeting, David.
it even
Exactly.
talks about in the manual. Uh, it comes from Procrustes. Um, let's see, where is that?
So
It's
Ryan's
I
in
an
looked.
AI
there,
himself there. He's got it all memorized.
and it tells a little story, which is kind of hilarious. Um, it'll take me. I remember when I looked for it again because the way the manual's written. Good luck finding it,
Exactly. Exactly. Good luck
but it's
finding
in it's in there.
things that should be next to each other are not. Um,
So I do want to point out that Anthropic, of course, and their use of AI basically is illegal and violates the copyright of all of the books and all of the artists that they basically use to train their AI. And of course, if you missed it, there was a lawsuit about that, and that's been resolved now and effectively. Uh, but the most of the artists do not feel that they're really being paid very well, and it only covered works that were listed in the Library of Congress, I think, or no, had an ISBN number, I think was the requirement. And so it didn't cover any of the short stories, and it didn't cover any of many other things that were written. So, use of AI, just be aware, there are issues with that.
Mhm. And not
Don't
just
all the
Also,
don't all the AIs kind of work that way? I mean, they
all
kind of
the
steal from
AIs are illegally trained. Yes.
Yeah,
Most
that's my
of
thing.
them effectively are, yes.
Yeah.
So very, very few of the companies are bothering with following the copyright rules at this time.
Yep.
I also just had a very interesting conversation with a few of my colleagues on Sunday morning, and the topic of AI and using it for writing code and stuff came up. And one of one of the participants shared this YouTube link that I just dropped in the chat. Many of you will find this very interesting. It's about a 44-minute long video, so it's lengthy. It gets pretty technical through most of it, but there are these key aha moments that are very insightful as to these hallucinations and how the AI will say something with great confidence but be completely wrong.
Mhm.
And the main gist of the video is that AI doesn't understand the topic that it's talking about. It's just a language model, and it's just
Mhm.
using a probability matrix to really simplify it down. But if you guys have the time, even if you just skim this video, you're just gonna have a lot of aha moments. I know I did. I watched the whole thing. Um, but yeah, because we
It's
all use it here and there, and especially if you're using it for code, this is gonna be very, very enlightening. There's some great examples of it doing some simple math problems. That's really interesting.
Okay, so
I dropped it in
Ingo,
the
you keep
chat.
tossing around like we all use it. The trick is that most of us don't have a choice whether to use it or not, because like your dentist is using it for their answering system, and you don't necessarily get to talk to a human anymore without
Mhm.
going through an AI that tries to basically be a human.
Hmm.
Mhm.
However,
yeah,
you
they
know,
try it for a little while until they find out, oh, it doesn't work like I was told it was going to work. They
oh
did
yeah,
that. They did that with the drive-through here, and it was gone pretty quickly.
Which one are you talking about, Ryan?
It's annoying either way.
Wendy's and White Castle both have converted to that sort of thing. White Castle specifically tells you that everything you say is being recorded, and if you wait
Oh,
long enough,
nice.
it without saying anything, it then drops you to a human. Wendy's is a little bit more chintzy. They don't tell you that, like, effectively what you're doing is helping train their AI, but that's effectively what they're doing is letting you help train their AI. Um,
Wow.
so
Yeah,
those are the two that I've noted.
so you just shout representative, right? That's how it works.
Is what was that, Brian?
You just shout representative as soon as you
Oh, shot
pull up,
representative.
right?
That's what I
Like you
do on
do.
the phone calls. Yeah, I just say agent.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah,
So,
I always say talk to a human.
Hmm.
yeah, Ingo, what Ingo described, what was it? It said with great confidence.
The hallucinations, I mean?
I guess it was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hallucinations. Well, it sounds like a lot of people I know, actually. Um,
No doubt, right?
I think we call them assertive. Is what.
Assertive.
Was it fake it till you make it, right?
Hmm.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Well, if it's okay, I would still like to hear. I know AI is a sensitive topic, uh, but I'd still like to hear how David used it and how it worked out for him, and then also how
Sure.
he used it with the TS Pico. If that's
So, that spectrum thing was one example. Another thing that I have used it for is in building the Timex Sinclair website. I use a lot. It's built in WordPress, and I use a thing called custom post types to for a lot of the content. Like an article is a custom post type, a book, a program, a product, periodicals, issues. These are all things that are not built into WordPress or any other CMS. And if you want the flexibility and the ability to, handle them individually, you have to build these things within your CMS. Um, and so one of the problems that I've had since day one is showing as a breadcrumb the relationship from an article to the issue to the periodical that it appears in. And I don't remember exactly how long ago, but a little while ago, I finally, thought, oh, wait a minute, maybe this is a thing that Claude can help me fix. And as it turns out, yes, it's a thing that Claude can help me fix. I'll just share my screen real quick so you can see. So here's my long list of plugins for uh, WordPress, 42 active. I don't know if that's a large number or not because I don't really pay attention to that anymore. But it wrote this, and I had to, give it a lot of back and forth coaching on exactly what I wanted it to do. But it wrote this plugin that goes and looks at all of the custom post types that are available in the system and then lets you select, what the parent page is going to be for that thing, um, define the relationship. In this case, an article is related to an issue. And then let me go down to issues. Issues are um, have a parent of a periodical, and then periodicals don't have any parent at all. So that's one example. And then how that turns out in reality is, let me go to, publications, and we'll go to this Timex Sinclair. So this breadcrumb now does this. So it has the home page, it has the publications, it has the periodicals, and then it has the page number, the page that we're on. And then if I go down to, I'm going to pick Sync because Sync has lots of articles. And I'll just drill down to an article here and pick the first one. So this article appeared in Sync Volume 3, Number 6 of Sync magazine, which, working your way backwards gets you that to the top. And the same thing for products. Let me see if I can find. I think I have. Let me scroll. The ABC Gator, right? Timex Computer Corporation is the parent. These should not be, so that looks like a bug in my settings that I need to adjust. That should be companies, not out of the what's new section. So let's see if I can see what's going on there. Companies, company. Yeah, it did this to me again. I gotta fix this by hand. So again, not perfect AI. I got close enough. For my needs, I got close enough in that respect. But I use it all the time at work.
Do you interact with because the only AI I've used is ChatGPT. Do you
Yeah,
interact with it in the same way or totally differently?
two ways. If I'm just doing something where I want it to craft an answer for me or a document or something, I do that through that, interface that's similar to ChatGPT. There's an app or there's a web page that you go to and you type in your prompt and it goes off and does the stuff, right? But Claude also has a thing called Code, which is an app that you can run on the command line inside a terminal window on your Mac or Linux or Windows machine, and it is tuned for building programs And so in that case, you're giving it, the kinds of specs that if you're doing something fresh, you're giving it the specs that that you want the program to do. But again, you can iterate over stuff through
But it
that.
doesn't have like a memory, right? Or does it?
It does. It builds a memory. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, it
It has a,
does.
a file that keeps track of various things that you've asked it to do, various things that are still on the to-do list, that kind of jazz.
Well, no, I guess that's not what I mean. So let's say you wanted to feed it information. Like, let's say it didn't have any information about the ZX manual,
Hmm.
basic manual.
Hmm.
And can you feed it information?
Yeah.
You can. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it will remember it then?
It depends upon the context. Like you can create a
Okay.
project and you can attach the manual as as a resource on the project if you're going to be doing something long. If it's just a chat, you could attach the manual as to the chat itself, and
Yeah.
that'll work just as well. I think I've mentioned that I have a stamp collection, um, and one of the things that frustrated me at the end of December was that there are no or very few apps for tracking your stamp collection on the Mac. There's like 9 of them for the Windows for Windows, and they all suck in the way that amateur written Windows apps suck with extremely complicated interfaces and etc. And really, all I needed was uh, I needed a glorified spreadsheet where I could, have a list of all the stamps, the ones that I own, the ones that I want, the ones that I'm not going to bother with. And there's a set of extra data around that. So I had it write me a app for my tracking my stamp collection, and works really well. As a matter of fact, I was using it just yesterday because I got some stamps in the mail, and I'm like, I don't know which of these I own.
Don't all stamps come in the mail?
All the stamps coming. No, sometimes you go to the stamp show and get them.
A stamp show. There it is.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a while since I've been to one. Um, it's like a computer show, except that everything's in these little glassine envelopes,
Hmm.
and much more compact. So anyway, the thing, I'm sorry,
You're a philanthropist or whatever that is?
a philatelist?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought that you may accuse me of that.
Is
Yeah,
that
I
what a
have
stamp
very
collector is
rare
called?
piece.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yes, that's what the stamp collector is called.
Oh.
Or nerds or geeks, or there's other words for it as well.
I have a very rare piece I can send you.
Uh-oh. I hesitate to ask.
Cover sheet for a bundle.
A bund. Oh yeah, yeah. You know what? I just saw one of those recently. Somebody had posted a question because they had the bundle and the cover sheet, and they're like, "What is this?" Um,
I have the cover sheet.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, those things are pretty rare, from my understanding. So, but what prompted your curiosity here, Adam,
Yeah,
was this challenge that we were having with
exactly.
the TS Pico.
Hmm.
And Ryan and Ricardo have spent months, fixing features, adding features to the TS Pico, improving how it performs. And 2-ish weeks ago or so, we started talking we have a separate meeting where we talk about this stuff. We started talking in that about testing it. And so we put together the files, and several of us downloaded them to our extra Pico boards to test it. And um, Paul uh, was getting this. Paul Anderson, one of the beta testers, was getting this error message almost consistently when he was trying to load a file. He was trying to mount a file. It kept giving him this error message, as if he had pressed the break bar in the space bar rather within a program. You get a message that says decont, type in continue to continue or something like that. I remember the exact message. Um, and behind the scenes, we looked into what was happening behind the scenes. The Pico was mounting the file, so it was copying the file from the SD card to its internal memory and making it ready Uh, but then the user gets this error and thinks, oh, it's not working. And if you did some stuff to clear the little buffer that exists between the Pico and the 2068, you could then load the file. It would work okay. This happened on two of Paul's computers. It happened intermittently on one of my computers and almost all the time on one of my other computers, one of my other 2068s. So we
But importantly, it happened like none of the time on mine and Ricardo's.
bizarrely, yes, and who knows what the difference is there? Why it's not,
So I
um,
keep mine well oiled.
you know, that's the thing. Oh, and that
Maybe he's got
reminds
a
me,
tight spring, a clock spring.
tightly wound spring.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, so I was futzing with it and looking at it because we thought that the problem was within a specific function, but it was also showing up with a different command, which just is to show the directory. So it would show up with that every once in a while, and that doesn't call the function that we thought, was sort of at the root cause of this. And so I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe Claude can help me figure out where this is happening. And so I spent a couple hours with Claude and the TSPico file, which is the one that contains all of these functions, trying to work through where this problem might be coming from. And we made a bunch of different changes, and after about 4 or 5 hours of that, we just did not get anything that came close to resolving it. And then I thought, well, what if I take the current production um, um, version of this file, the one that does work on all hardware, nobody has complained about this thing, right? What if I take that and ask Claude to start porting functions from the newest version into this older file. And so I asked it to port just the commands associated with loading files. And I had it connected to so I had the Pico connected to my 2068, but also connected to my computer at the same time so I could see messages from the Pico. Um, and between those two things, and then it occurred to me, oh, I should get some data logging to the my main computer, my Mac computer in this case, we use this program called Thani, which lets you upload and download stuff to the Pico chip itself, and it has a window just for these little messages. So I had said to Claude, add this kind of debugging so that I can see what the heck's going on. And the more debugging I added, the more interesting it got. Like in response to when the Pico sends a scroll prompt to the 2060, it gets displayed on the screen as scroll question mark, and you're with a yes no, and the user can say, yeah, I want to keep going, or no, I don't. There's something going on where sometimes an extra character is sent, or sometimes a slightly different ASCII value is sent. So we're looking, that's another thing to look into, but at least my code right now uh, can handle those little oddball things. Anyway, upshot of it was that uh, I got it to work consistently on both of my 2068s, these load commands, and then asked Claude to just go through and bring everything else in from the new version into this now modified, original version. And that meant a lot of command testing. each thing it implemented, I had to go and test it. But it was cool because it told me here's the things that you need to test. So I didn't have to like go digging through places to find that stuff. And then I asked it to keep a log of all the work that we had done, which is a giant ass file. And then I asked it to write an API document for people who want to, do their own programming for the Pico. So have that. And then I asked it to do a diff between the original uh, program, the most recent one that Ryan had shared out, and a slightly older one that Ricardo had shared out. And just, goes through all the code bases and figures out what's different and tells you what was added and where it exists and where it doesn't. So that was probably 15 hours of my weekend. So it's not just, point it at the stuff and go. It's it's the same, except accelerated, sort of process of build, test, here's what it's doing wrong, build, test, here's what it's doing wrong. A lot of copying and pasting from that debug data back into the Claude client to say, here's what happened. It didn't work in this way or something like that. And then it would, iterate through the code and try to figure out what was going on. So for a thing that is a language prediction model, uh, it's actually quite pleasant to work with.
That was a good explanation. Thank you.
Yeah.
A question about this process.
Yeah.
When you interact with Claude,
Yes.
what do you think? But because Claude could not test the real hardware, how determine that you are with the correct input to Claude?
You're asking me how do I know I'm telling it the right thing?
Not for you, but how Claude could determine that the question is if Claude has all the information that needs, because you act as a filter
Okay.
before Claude.
Right. So that was part of the point of adding all of this debug output was that it would help me, sort of see what was going on as the program is running, as I send a command to the Pico and it, does its thing, it gives me all this output of data. But then I could just copy and paste that into into the chat command in Claude. And, sometimes this is kind of one of the weird things about interacting with AI is you have to get over the fact that you're not talking to a person, so you don't have to have a conversation like you're talking to a person. And so, but I, a lot of people who use AI, they just sort of fall into that pattern where it's like, and so I would, say, okay, so it did this thing. I would type out that stuff, and then I would say, and then here's the debug log, and just paste it in. But at a certain point, I was like, wait a minute, I can just paste in the debug information, and it will know what it is that I'm giving it, and understand, that that's a bug report in essence, and that it needs to fix something.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, even like you said, even though it couldn't directly control the hardware, uh, it could generate enough, debugging information that it was able to figure out, how to get around various issues.
No, because in the parallel, I sent to Ricardo one of the schematic of the debug board for the Pico. I sent maybe in the Wednesday call I share with the group, but up to now, Ricardo have how you convert the TS Pico board to the trace board. Yeah, maybe it's more helpful as an input for the Claude to test the info.
Maybe. I mean, it's not the Pico chip itself doesn't have enough I/O to be a standalone bus debugger for the 2068 or ZX Spectrum. Like both of those need 24 lines plus a bunch of others, and at that point you've run out of ports on the Pico chip itself. But maybe with one of the newer ones that has a gazillion pins, maybe that can be a bus debugger all by itself. Um, and then you can do things like have it spit out the data in a way that it can be interpreted by open source um, um, uh, logic slash
Analyzer.
oscilloscope. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Open source analyzing programs, right? Analyzer programs. But you can also have it output, text and talk directly that way.
No, because in this circuit you need 11 lines. It's very simple. 8
Okay.
data plus read write and IO 14 port. That's
And
it.
you don't need the address bus.
No.
Okay.
Just only the address 0 because you need to determine it is port 14 or 15 or uneven. And then the input output signal. But all is the connect to the TS Pico. That is the great point here. Because the base board that you have could works as a debugger.
That's true. If you only need the lines that are currently available on a TS Pico board, yeah, you could turn it into a debugger. It'd be
You don't
fantastic, at
need to
least for data.
use any memory. You need to keep out the RAM, ROM, that's only the Pico plus the logic, the coding logic. Very simple.
Cool.
But using a special state machine, because the state machine is very simple. Just only see when you write or read at the port or IO, that's it. Just only log the value.
Right.
Very simple. Not map memory, nothing. Just only in the input direction. Not output, not handle bus, nothing. Because the main Pico do this. This is very simple.
Cool. Yeah.
But Ricardo has the schematic to convert one of the board to CAD. But maybe it's good to also to learn the protocol or to the exchange byte with the Pico. Yeah.
Cool.
Next step.
Yes. Yeah. So, Adam, did that answer your questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It did.
Cool. Okay.
Well, Adam, you made a question in the previous meeting that your question was the RPM, remember?
Was it what? What was my question?
The RPM for the ERCO.
Oh, what is RPM?
RPM.
ERCO
Yeah.
CPM.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The RPM is a clone of the CPM. It was created by the different company, not Digital Research, but this clone used the same area that the original CPM, except that was written by the C80 CPU, because the original CPM was 8080 CPU. Run on the C80, but run as a compatibility code, opcode. But in this case, it's C80 native. It's more powerful, a little more faster, and use the same space.
Well, okay, so CPM is actually a broad family of operating systems that ran on a variety of different computers, and CPM as an operating system was kind of divided into, I believe, 3 different areas. And so there's the main boot code, there's a machine, so the main boot code, and I think the machine, the next stuff that's read is machine specific.
Yeah.
I forget whether it was BDOS or
what it was. Is CCP the first block? But boot CCP is command console processor. Then BDOS is the basic DIX operating system, and then the BIOS. The BIOS is the specific part with the interact with the hardware. the proprietary hardware. But the rest is the same for all the systems.
Right. And I think, well, at least I thought that at least for most of the time, if you wanted to call it CPM, you basically had to pay digital research money. But so I presume that RPM, whoever did it, but the Timex one is the only one that I've ever run across that called it RPM, was essentially kind of a clone where they decided not to pay digital DRI money.
Yeah.
But it's a clone, but it's not free. It's a clone with less expensive. I remember, I don't know if $5 per copy, or when Digital Reserve was 50.
Okay, I
Sure.
mean, do you know other computers or other disk systems that actually used RPM?
I only see on the Aerco system disk.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know whether they developed it themselves, but you're saying somebody else developed it?
Somebody else developed it, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
But it's not clear who that is. And like you said, Mowgli, I've not been able to find, who that person was, and I've never seen it referenced in terms of you know, any other computers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Well, thank you.
Rich,
Yeah.
you
me.
asked about how to use 32K on a ZX81.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Let me just share my screen. I'm also going to put this in the chat and I'll send it out to the email list.
Okay.
So this is the manual for the memo pack 32K RAM module. I don't know what kind of 32K, that you have in mind, whether it's like an internal upgrade or what.
Yeah, internal.
Okay. So you can ignore the part that this talks about using it with, a 16K RAM pack to get to 48K. But really, the thing that you have to do is poke a specific value to set RAM top. And with the 16K module, the 681 or the 1000 counts memory, basically. That's why it takes longer to boot with 16K versus 2K. It's just counting the memory that's available, but it's only programmed to count up to a certain point, up to that 16K. Because who would need more than 16K on an 81 or something? I don't know. Or maybe it was just Sinclair was not going to put out a bigger memory module, so why bother supporting anything bigger? So you have to poke that specific value. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Cool, there we go. I'm just do cool.
Yeah, I'm taking a print screen of that. So
I'll send this in the chat as well and to the email list, Rich, so you'll get it. But this magic number is 16,389, and if you poke 128 to it, it tells the computer that you have 32K as your RAM top.
okay.
Okay. And that's the limit for what you can use for basic programs.
Yeah. Okay.
There's, but
The other part of my question was if I use a standard 1000
yep.
and convert it to 32K using a special IC, an additional IC on the A15 line.
Yep.
Basically, the upper 16K resides between 49,152 and 65,535. Where, of course, the lower is always 16,384 to or 32,767. Okay. Now, when I do the same machine but put in the VL81, the upper 16K resides right after the lower 16K. So the whole thing goes between 16,384 and 49,151.
Right.
So it appears that the standard 16K would have more limitations because you have a big hole in the RAM. You have the whole area from 32,768 to 49,151 that's blank. You can't. There's no memory there.
Uh, that's not.
Isn't that the display area?
No, the display is in
Oh, no, no,
a
right.
movable place in RAM and the
First
1081.
16K.
Well, let me interject a little
Thank
bit
you,
here.
Carl.
Yeah, because so after the regular 16K, right? So from 8,000 hex to basically, what is another 16K above that?
A0, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So basically that contiguous
C0.
32K, right? If it's contiguous, you can run basic programs past the 32K boundary, right? The 8,000 hex boundary.
Yeah.
Because a display file will get pushed up there,
Yeah.
right? You can't run any kind of basic programs in the upper 16K, right? Because that's where, and that's what makes the ZX81 and the 1000 really complicated. I mean, it's, ultimately a simple machine, but it's pretty complicated when you start looking at it and the memory expansion capabilities, right? So once you get in that upper 16K block, that's where the ULA, right, needs to see a mirror of the ROM, right? So that's how it gets the character set to draw, the pixels on the screen
So
during the video
it
refresh.
actually populates it with no ops and executes no ops up there.
Right.
Right.
Yet the ULA reads the characters from the display buffer, which is down in the lower in the, you know, the 16K RAM area. So the CPU is executing no ops while the ULA displays the actual character data.
Right.
And
Okay. Yeah.
as a result, you also can't run machine code up there unless you override the M1 not.
Right. That's the other thing. So you can store data up there only in that RAM area if you have RAM there. But again, it has to be gated, right? So you have to, if it's trying to do the video refresh, it has to have M1 on, right? Because that's how it it's one of the signals that it uses for the video refresh. While it's not doing video refresh, then you can turn it into RAM. You see what I'm saying? So, but that's kind of where this whole thing gets complicated, and I know that's kind of where we're at right now with a little problem with the the TS1068 prototypes. There's because it has an M1 not circuit in there, just because so that we can run machine code up there, right? You can use the full 64K, but you have to have that extra circuitry in there, the M1 not circuitry to, gate when, during the refresh, the video refresh cycle, it needs to see, it needs to see the video display file because that's how it gets the pixels.
Yep.
But
Question.
so okay.
The diode on the schematic is not in the inverse direction.
Which schematic?
Put the on near the website.
I'm sorry. Which one?
For the expansion that you present.
Oh, was it Wilf Richter's that I was showing? Let me just go back to. Let me open that in a browser and share it again. This schematic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of his that's got IO as well as the memory.
Right.
But again,
Yes.
that's just 32K, right? He's got a 32K chip there.
Yeah. Now, if you want, let me get rid of this and this. And Wilf, there we go. This is going to be similar to his article on his webpage. But it talks about This also talks about that M1 problem, that M1 not problem that Carl was just talking about. But this is a simplified schematic.
Yeah, so he uses that the 251, which is a great chip for this. So you can kind of because it breaks up the memory into 8K chunks.
Hmm.
And so you can enable or disable any of the chunks, right? So you can actually have like a shadow ROM, which is kind of what I do implement that on the 1068. So the area between 8K and 16K is normally just a shadow of the ROM right down there, but you can actually make that now have RAM so that you can put your
That's where you
routines
can
in
put
there.
UDGs.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's kind of how, you open that 8K area up to RAM so that you can, put other stuff in there. And you can actually open up 0 to 8K, right, where the actual ROM is. You can actually open that into RAM so that you can put a modified ROM, right, in that RAM. And if it's battery backed, well, then you can just make it select that instead of selecting the factory ROM, and then it'll run it'll run your modified ROM in RAM. It's in RAM, but it's battery backed, so it's non-volatile. So that way you can create your own ROM and make it run from that too. So that's another feature, right, that I have planned to implement on the 1080, 1068. Sorry. So, but that's the basis of the circuitry here, right? So that way you can pick, what each chunk does. But like I said, once you get past the 32K boundary, then M1 not comes into play because of the video refresh, and so that you have to have an M1 not circuit in addition to that decoder circuit there. So just gets a little complicated.
Yeah, what I saw in my research was where the same circuit for standard 32K upgrade, internal memory upgrade, they had a battery backup circuit, which I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't interested in, but I don't know how the hell that would work because I'm thinking, well,
Static RAM chip.
what's that?
Static RAM chip.
Well, I understand that, and I understand. I
That's what
know
the
all
battery
about
is
the
for.
electronics, the battery backup. But what the hell would you use it for? Because in order to get a program in there, I'd have to peek and poke all the information from the standard RAM where the program is up into that upper RAM, store it, and let the battery backup save it there. But now, how do you get that back over to the usable RAM when you fire the thing back up without corrupting the original RAM? Because when I run my RAM test program, which basically is just a peek and poke program,
Hmm.
uh, once I make one pass, I notice that it screws up some of the parts of the video RAM as far as the numbers and so on that come back up on the screen. So I know that when I'm poking a certain spot, now the test doesn't poke every byte. It only pokes every 256 byte and then goes on to the next and next and next.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It was a standard program I found that I just modified to suit what I needed. So one of those bytes where it does 256 is putting a 0 in there, where it should be a 1. And of course, then the stuff on the screen gets screwed up. So how would I transfer that? How would I run a program off of that? I don't know what good it is, to tell you the truth.
Well, the big thing, especially with the battery back part, is like I said, you can create your own custom ROM, right? So that lower 8K would be battery back, so it's going to be non-volatile. So you could, create your own custom ROM or put a different ROM down there, and you can switch, between the two.
Yep.
So that's kind of one feature of the battery back. The other thing is, like I said, that 8K to 16K, a lot of people will put machine code routines there,
Yep.
right, to do various things, or like I said, the UDG stuff, right, and then some of the routines that run the UDG stuff. So that would be non-volatile. That would always be there. It's never going to get erased. From 16K to 32K, we can't really do much about that unless you do a custom ROM, because the factory ROM erases that area all the time,
When
every
you
time
turn
you
it up.
power it up. right? So, that's going to get clobbered whether it's battery backed up or
Right.
not, unless you create your own ROM and maybe don't test the RAM. Especially this day and age, it's going to be 16K. It's kind of what they did with the 1500, right? They didn't really test the RAM. They just assumed that it was going to be 16K because, they built a machine with 16K. So it was going to have that anyway, right? So they kind of reclaimed some of the space that the RAM check routine was using in the 1500 to pop the cartridge, right? To get the cartridge to auto start. That's kind of where they stole some of the space there that they were using for the RAM check in the 1500, because the 1500 is always going to have 16K RAM. And then of course, so the upper 32K, right, battery backed, again, that's never going to get messed with, right, unless you do it yourself somehow or another routine does something to it. So that's always going to be there as well. And then, like I said, in the 1068, that's a 512K chip that's in there, right? So you basically have 8 64K memory spaces in that one chip, right? So now you can check. Right now it's just with jumpers or dip switches if you want to do that. But eventually, what I want to do is make a shift register or something like that, similar to like the 2068 and all these other machines that do bank switching. Right, they use a register or a flip flop somewhere that you can change those address lines, so you can pick which 64K memory space you want, right? With a poke, right? Poke the address of whatever that shift register is with the value of the memory space that you want. So that's eventually where I want to go with that, but of course we're just trying to get to work basically now. But
yeah. Well, it looks like a real hell of a project, I'll tell you, from where I sit.
Yeah. Like I said, I had some of that working in the original, Rev .1 design, because that was working, and I brought that to the show, right, the VCF show. So it was working, but only with the 16K. I didn't populate it past that. So just as a proof of concept.
I myself don't really care about anything more than 16K, but I thought it was a neat thing. Hey, I'll convert it to full 32K, and of course it's relatively easy on we're using the VLA81 replacement VLA.
Right.
What I discovered though on the VLA81, it doesn't work as well as you'd like using the standard composite output with the back porch. So what I did is I turned that off and went back to ULA 2C184 and the extended system, blocks 1 and 2. And when I did that, I just simply put one of my CMOS digital composite decoders in the circuit to make it composite, and that made a beautiful picture, and everything works 100%. Memory works the whole bit, 32K from like I say, from 16 right to 49, or what is it? Yeah, 49 151.
So like Adam's asking the question too, is there any software commercially made that use more than 16K? And I can't really, I don't really think there was. There might have been.
I think thought it was kind of a unique thing to be able to do, and I can check it with the peaks and pokes. It's there. If it isn't there, you get a big boom. It's done.
Right.
That kind of thing. And
well, there are I know Star Trek, and I think maybe there's a Frogger's coming to my mind. I don't know why Frogger would take more than 16K or something around that range. But I know there are some people that made games that do use more than 16K, that you need 32K.
But again, is this in the modern era we're talking about now?
Yeah, it's fairly recent. Yeah, it's probably like in the last 10 years or so, 10, 15 years. So certainly not back when the machines were, quote unquote popular.
Right.
Even though you had people like Memotech making 64K RAM packs, and a lot of other commercial companies were doing that as well back then.
Yeah, so what were people putting in them?
I don't know.
Database.
I mean, was there?
I had the byte back.
There's probably a database or a word processor.
Profile.
Yep. Yeah, see,
Aside note,
Profile could take advantage of that extra RAM and give you more space for your database. And then there was an accounting package that Joe had archived for me that runs on the 81/1000, and you have to do the poke for the extra memory before you try to run it because it requires that extra memory. It's really kind of
And
crazy.
and another thing too, I know that the Hot Z, right? We kind of talk about Hot Z sometimes.
Oh,
So
did it?
there was a high RAM version called High Z,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you had more RAM, you could run it up in there, and that way it would totally give you all of this 16K address, all the 16K space to use for your machine code program. It wouldn't take any of that space to run the assembler.
Yeah.
okay.
Plus,
And
plus, Dan put a bunch of labels, right, for all the ROM routines and shit like that. He had a big table that had all the ROM routines, where they were called from, so you could use that table instead of trying to remember the address for all these routines, right? So that took space. So that's kind of another reason why, he made the high Z. So all that stuff was out of the normal RAM space. So it didn't take up any. So when you developed your program, you could use the whole thing,
The whole thing,
right?
yeah.
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 anyway, one more little note, a side note on that, the composite output for the 2C184 ULAs. If you get the little module they sell online, it uses a 555 in a timer. Don't work for crap. I checked the engineering drawings and all the timing and everything, and it can't work very well. The ones I had working would mostly block out the cursor or part of the K cursor on the left side because the timing was way off. But what I discovered was using a standard CMOS 100 or 02, no, 132 chip, I believe, uh, which is Schmidt trigger. But the 100 works perfectly, just the same. You could take that chip, uh, run the sync signal video through it, and when you turn on the output transistor, that gives you the back porch,
Hmm.
okay, and then release the signal from the timing sync, vertical or horizontal sync pulse. When you release it, the saturation dismount or release of the transistor I use, which is an A06, is exactly 5 milliseconds or microseconds. So that makes, it's foolproof. There's no adjustments, no nothing. Put the chips on there. I did like 7 or 8 or 9 of them already, and I sent one off to the guy selling that stuff to tell him, hey, your stuff just don't work very well, and this works 100% out of the box. Plug it in, perfect signal comes up in either a composite monitor, a VGA monitor, HDMI monitor with the appropriate adapter. If anybody's interested in that particular composite circuit for the 184, you don't need it on the 210, right? 210 has
Right.
the back porch builder. You don't need any of that. Just on the 184. Or if you use the new VL81 and want it to work properly, so your mic and your audio work, because when you use the VL81 in the standard mode as a 210 for driving the output direct, it cuts the sound and mic down way the hell down where they're pretty much unusable. So if you put that over to 184, put the little chip in there that I just told you about, boom, it's there, it's perfect, everything works. But like I said, I can take snapshots of that hand-drawn schematic I have, post it on the website. If anybody wants it, let me know.
Yeah, you
I've
should do that
Yeah, you
because
documented
should do that.
that'd be interesting because, like I said, I've gone through a bunch of them, like you said, and I've used some of them with the 555s, and yeah, they're marginal at best, right?
Yeah,
And the one I've really come to use nowadays is the Ginger Electronic one, that storage cells, the CCB, ZXB, or whatever the heck that thing's called. Because that thing has some gates in it too. That they actually use individual. They're like SOT23. They're just one gate, one NAND gate.
Right.
It's a 5-pin
You
SOT23.
don't need a lot. You
Right,
really don't
and
need
it
a
has
lot.
4 of them on there,
I
but
was
that
trying to-
thing works great. I mean, I've even
Right.
put in the 1500s at Mowgli that I have for Mowgli. I put those in there because I tried, using that transistor thing. I know that you have that on your site too, David. That you
Yeah.
just put the transistor in there, and again, it does work, but it's
The
marginal. It's
transistor
really
is
dim.
okay
Yep.
As long as you got the 210. The old UL.
Well, see, the 1500 has the
Has an SCLD.
National
Oh, I don't know
Semiconductor.
about
Yeah.
Except that
So.
it has its own back porch. So you only
Yeah, it
need-
does have its own back porch, but the signal output was really low if you just use a emitter follower on the video
Now,
line.
what I did is I made a composite of 2068, 1500, and 1000 signals, drew them up, timed them, and I said, I want mine to look like that when I'm done. And I was very surprised because I had a timing circuit built into the front end of the CMOS logic to make that 5 millisecond signal. Wasn't needed. Wasn't needed. You
Because of
just
the transistor.
It saturates the transistor using a 5K resistor to the base, saturates it to the point when you release it, you take that horizontal sync pulse off. In exactly 5 microseconds, it turns off. Waits 5 microseconds for the saturation.
As long as you're using that transistor, right? So yeah.
Right. The magic transistor.
Yeah, I use that transistor because it's a more modern version. It's a MPSA06, and it's super high gain compared to the BCC 37 or 337 or whatever the hell they use on that other board. That thing is super low gain. I've never seen anything low gain like that unless it was an old germanium or some damn thing, from 50, 60 years ago. I was very surprised, and I said, okay, take the timer out, cut all that out, made a bunch of them, every one of them, plug it in. The only thing you might tweak is the size of the resistors for the output drive. They're summed together, right? They're summed together before they go through a diode, and I only use one diode. No reason to use two. And they're summed together there. You could change them a little bit. I think I use a 47, and I believe it's a 62 or 56. But you could tweak them a couple ohms one or the other and get a perfectly white, crystal clear, high contrast picture. Mine are good enough the way they are.
Rich,
So I'm not screwing with it.
Rich.
Yeah.
Why don't you draw it up as a schematic and post it to the list, and then
I can.
document it
I'll
there.
draw it up on my iVix, so
Okay.
it's a nice, neat drawing.
Cool.
And then I'll make a copy of that and post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because that other stuff. Now, years ago, I know I bought one of those little packages, but it had a surface mount 555, and the damn thing worked. And I didn't pay attention to the video to see how much space there was left of the K cursor. But if you look at the engineering drawing, the specs, you write out, copy the spec sheet and read it. It says it's only capable of a minimum 10 millisecond signal or microsecond signal after the signal is gone. So you got 5 microseconds.
Rich, this level of detail. Gonna sail right over the heads of almost everybody.
Okay, well,
write it up.
I'll
And also, we're out of time.
It's so simple, it's ridiculous.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Write it up. We're out of time.
Wait. I want to hear him finish talking about it. No.
No. You shut up too, Adam. This is the only time that I'm going to stomp on y'all. The rest of the time you can do whatever you want. You can talk about whatever you want. But when it gets close to my bedtime, then we're done.
Okay. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
I see you guys all.
Okay.
Well,
so
wait. When is the next meeting?
The next meeting is Sunday, March 15th, which I hope
that's
is
halfway
not
through the month.
The Ides of March?
The Ides of March. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet. So all kinds of things. Listen,
Everybody bring your toga and a knife.
You know, I just since I do want to ask anyone. I was planning to, but to go out like at 3 in the morning to look at the lunar eclipse. Is anyone doing that?
Not me.
It's going to be really low on the horizon, I was
It's
told.
overcast here. No hope.
No hope. No.
Yeah, I don't think us in the Midwest are going to get much of a look.
Yeah.
And like here in Columbus, I think they said it's happening at 6:30. So,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So-
old enough. I'd be awake at that time, at
Hey.
least briefly.
Paul, many of us are at that age now where we wake up ungodly early. Okay. On that note, thank you, gentlemen. We managed to kill another 2 hours,
Take care.
of a good Monday evening. But at least we weren't golfing. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
Yeah. All right.
a good
See
walk
you.
spoiled.
Bye
in
bye.
2 weeks.
See you
hence.
guys.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Beware the Ides of March.